Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long here with my co-host and co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We are coming to you from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. I should say hot Las Vegas, Nevada, and the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. And talk about land surveying. This is one that I think our friends over at Diamondback would absolutely love, because once I started researching it, I fell in love with the fact that for a country like ours, and here in the United States, that we have this love-hate relationship with monarchies. We fought this whole battle against kings, and we didn't want any of this. And even to this day, people are very touchy-feely about their thoughts on kings and kingships and monarchies here. And so this is about the actual castles that do exist here in the United States.
Yeah.
Usually Europe gets all the love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people don't know that we have many castles, if any, in the U.S., but there are quite a few, and a lot of them are open to visitors. But it's interesting because when you think of castles, you do think of Europe, and we've been to a few European castles, and we have not been to a single castle in the U.S., but doing this research, we realized there's quite a few here, and we do need to go to some of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes with an asterisk. I mean, you do have to say, like, only one of these castles on our list actually housed any kind of royalty. And it may surprise people to know that we do have a castle that has housed royalty here in the United States, since we've never had a king per se. Most of these are like grand estates that were built to replicate European castles. Because why not? If you have the money and the luxury to build a castle, you're not going to start from scratch. Like, let me just redesign the castle. No, you're going to take inspiration from other places. And even one, this is just a heads up, later in the show, there's even one that was built for nefarious purposes.
Oh.
Yes, a little intrigue right there.
I don't know about this. Okay.
The first one I came across is probably the most well-known. And probably because it is from one of the most well-known families in the United States in our history. And that's the Vanderbilts.
Okay.
If you don't know anything about the Vanderbilts, too long didn't read. They were rich, and they've been rich for a long time. And in fact, one of their current generations is Anderson Cooper.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he's a Vanderbilt.
Interesting.
Yeah, he doesn't have the Vanderbilt name, but he is in fact a Vanderbilt. And I think, though, their fortune might be gone now, finally, after all these generations. Like, gone in the way that we would think about it, but they still have means to an end. And the first one is Biltmore Estate.
So what makes it a castle? I'm just curious. Like, is there definitive things that make a big house a castle?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it's just in how you look at it.
It's just a really big house, so we're calling it a castle.
No, if you've ever seen the pictures, if you've ever seen the images of Biltmore Castle, and they don't themselves call it castle. It's just Biltmore to them, right? But if you look at it, you're like, yeah, that looks like a...
It does. I have seen pictures. It does look very much like a castle. And I find it interesting that it's in a place that you wouldn't really think of having a castle, North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina, known for its kings and queens, known for its... No, Biltmore is, I think, 175,000 square feet.
Wow.
And it's patterned after a French chateau. It has a winter garden. And, of course, modern things like a bowling alley and things, because why not?
Because what house is complete without a bowling alley?
Yeah. George Washington Vanderbilt in the late 1800s decided, I want to build a castle in the hills of Asheville, North Carolina. And that's what he did because he's a Vanderbilt. So between the years of 1889 and 1895, the Biltmore Estate was constructed, but it's still privately owned by the Vanderbilt family. It is open as a museum, a garden estate, a winery, of course. Most of these, I think you're going to see on the list today, double as a winery in some capacity, because why not?
It's a event venue, and they do also have hotels and inns on the property that you can stay there. You can't stay in the actual estate itself, but some of the other buildings they've turned into kind of hotel type properties. So you can stay on the estate, but not in the castle. You're a commoner if you go to Biltmore.
I mean, when you look at it, I mean, it is now when most people say castles, like you were alluding to, like when we say castles, people have probably the idea of those, circular like turrets and where archers and people used to defend the castle. But castles over a period of time went through a lot of different variations. They have the medieval castles, but then they have the ones like this that do look more like French chateaus, but they're just really grand estates and they cover a vast amount of land. And even the gardens to these places are just immaculate.
This house is huge, though. It's considered America's largest home because it is privately owned. 35 bedrooms, 43 bathrooms, and has 65 fireplaces.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to be cold in a place like that.
It's huge. It's huge.
And just to really make the staff irritated, you'd be like, I want a fire lit in the, I don't know. Do you number the?
I don't know.
Do you know?
In the blue room. How many blue rooms would you have to have, though? I don't know.
No, the blue room. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine this. But in the 1890s, it was famous because it had an indoor swimming pool. It was heated. A heated indoor swimming pool in the 1890s. You're talking about cutting edge technology.
Right.
No expense spared kind of thing. A banquet hall with 70-foot ceilings and a 1916 Skinner pipe organ.
Because every home needs a pipe organ.
Well, yeah. How else are you going to do the Phantom of the Opera thing? I would do that all day if I lived there.
I know you would.
Walking around with a mask.
I know you would.
Just,
We would host parties just so you could do that.
What they used to call the Biltmore Village, an entire village built just to service the estate. Used to house the people that work there.
So yeah, it is a castle then.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have to have your own village to staff your home is a castle.
Absolutely. Biltmore has hosted everyone from presidents to fashion shoots and the rich and the famous. You can go, like Amy said earlier, you can go in it for a price. You can go check out the museum part. You can even rent a room there. You can't stay there. That's invite only, right? It's basically Downton Abbey meets a Cribs episode. Remember Cribs?
Cribs. Wow, you went way back.
Uh-huh. Old money and generational guilt. That's what it's built on. Vanderbilt was the youngest son of a railroad dynasty, if you didn't know. Just kind of filling in the gaps there with the Vanderbilts. They had a lot of money back when a lot of money was even back then. Like if you had $1 million back then, it would be worth, I think, close to like 40 million today or something, which is still a lot of money. Mm-hmm. These guys were probably billionaires before the term was even used. Oh, wow. That's how much money the Vanderbilts had at one point. Just insanity. They have at one point, anyway, they had a library that had 10,000 volumes.
Really?
You could just get lost in there. Like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. She would just get lost in there.
Well, you did say it's a French chateau inspired castle.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I didn't even put that together. Okay. I was like, what point are you alluding to here?
Belle, France.
There you go.
Just watched it with our daughter last week. So.
I think the winery, though, 40 years of wines coming from the estate. That's the perfect background to get day drunk.
Love it.
On a Riesling.
Riesling.
Or a rosé, just throwing up in the bushes at Biltmore. We are talking about actual castles that exist here in the United States and where you could go to visit them. Keep it right here, the Unscaled Travel Show.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Jeremy Long here with my co-host and co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We're in Sin City, Las Vegas, in the Diamondback Lancervane Studios. Check us out online, unscaledtravelshow.com. Also, on YouTube. It's growing. People like us. You can also find it under Unscaled Travel Show, telling some interesting stories there. And nothing more interesting than finding out that castles actually exist in the United States. This was I knew there were, even on the drive between Las Vegas and Reno, there's a home that at some point, one of the builders, they built turrets around it. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people know if you've ever made that drive because it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere in a little very small town. But it's not uncommon to see that because people all over the world have had fascinations with castles and castle and medieval architecture. Forever. Yeah. Well, I guess at least since the Middle Ages.
But how many castles? We've visited several castles in Europe that are just museums now. I think, and it's not just Americans in there. I think people from all over the world want to see what it was like to live in one of these places.
I believe it's we have this love of fiction and these stories and movies and everything. And in these time periods, you're like, what was life actually like? And so you picture something in your head and then you go to actually these places. We went to Osaka Castle when we were in Japan, and we were surprised how tiny and tight everything was. And it wasn't these big grand structures.
The home itself felt smallish.
Yeah.
But the property, the estate was huge. Yeah.
And they had moats to keep people out and defensive walls. Mm-hmm. These estates in the United States don't have that. Most of them, anyway, don't have moats. Some of them do. But they were just out of vanity, I think. They weren't for defense of anything. It was just I have a lot of money, and why not? And you know what? That's a good enough reason to go visit them because some of these are just immaculate. The next one we're chatting about is Hearst Castle in San Simon, California, which is a quick day trip from one of your areas.
Yeah, we were just in Monterey Bay, California, and we talked about driving down. We just unfortunately didn't have time. But if you're in the Napa Valley region, this is very close. You could always do a trip over, and it is an open museum that you can go and stay at. There's various tours that you can pay for, or I believe there's just one ticket to see everything. But they do all events here. The thing I find most interesting is that although this is a working facility, it's technically still not completed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was built between 1919 and 1947 by media tycoon William Randolph Hearst. The Hearst Company still exists to this day. And when he left in 1947, like you said, it was still incomplete, but it already had 165 rooms, and it sat on 123 acres of gardens, terraces, pools, walkways, all of that stuff built to his specifications. And he owned at the time 250,000 acres around this property.
Wow.
It really was, this crazy big property. And another interesting point is that Julia Morgan, the first licensed female architect in California, was the one who designed and built this just grand castle.
Yeah, you can one of the tours is actually named for her, and it's at the architectural tour where they do point out a lot of the features, the architectural features of the property itself. It's less about the history or the artifacts in the home and more about her vision as the architect of this house, which I do find very fascinating. I love architecture. We've taken a few different architecture tours in different cities, but I love knowing that she was the first licensed female architect, and this was her call to fame.
Yeah. Like George Costanza, I like to pretend that I'm an architect sometimes, and it fascinates me.
But she actually was.
At one time, it had its own private zoo. It has an indoor pool tiled in gold leaf because, yeah, what's with regular? What am I going to do? Regular blue tiles with a dolphin?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. You want the gold leaf stuff. The Neptune pool, rumored alone to cost more than a lot of small towns have in their annual budgets. That's how much it cost back in 1919 when he started building it. And it's absolutely immaculate. And you can go check it out for the low price of a few dollars. I think adult ticket prices right now are $35.
They start at $35,
Oh, yeah.
depending
Sorry,
on what
start.
all you want to see.
You want to see the bodies? It's extra 20. We shift our focus to Thousand Islands, New York. A lot of these built in New York, in and around the area.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Bolt Castle. George C. Bolt was a hotel magnate who started the Waldorf Astoria.
Oh, okay.
He was a rich, rich man. He built it between the years 1900 and 1904 as a symbol, of love for his wife, Louise.
Oh, I like that.
And he was like, this is going to be your Valentine's gift, baby. And I'm
like
over here
that.
like, here's some chocolates. I don't know. And then, tragically, she suddenly died in 1904.
Oh.
And right then and there, he sent a telegram, or a telegraph at that time, said, stop all construction. He never returned to this place because he could not see and envision himself being there without her.
That's so sad.
It's so sad and sweet, right?
Did they ever finish it? I've never heard of this one before.
Let's see. I don't know. Yes, they eventually repurposed it later on and finished it out, but he never went back to it. For 73 years, actually, it sat to the elements. No one went in, no one went out. And then the Thousand Islands Bridge Authority acquired the property in 1977 and kind of renovated it. There you go. And opened it to the public.
Oh, well, that's nice, but it's such a sad story.
Also, in that vicinity, the one that you were looking at earlier this year actually is Oheka Castle.
Yes,
in Huntington on Long Island.
I stumbled across this one because we were going to be in Long Island later this year, and I was looking for places to stay and saw this castle.
Yeah.
And I've never slept in a castle before, so I want to go stay.
And at these prices, you never will. If you just go to oheka.com, OHEKA, the opening video and pictures of it, holy moly.
Gorgeous.
This is a gorgeous, gorgeous property. It's right there on, of course, Long Island. It was built between 1914 and 1919 by Otto Kahn, the investment banker and socialite, styled, again, after the French chateau, modeled after, though, the Palace of Versailles. And you'll see it in the architecture. It is gorgeous. It's been the movie set for some movies, Royal Pain, Succession, Great Gatsby.
Oh, okay. Yes. I knew it looked familiar, but now that you've said that, I got it.
I knew that looked familiar. Yeah. That's a place I owned. Yep. I forgot I had that. I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 127 rooms.
Wow. And you can't actually stay in this castle, unlike Biltmore. We're going to go.
Oh, okay. Let's go. Is it haunted?
Probably. What castle isn't?
What good castle isn't haunted? Keep it right here. We're having fun just looking at castles here in the U.S. that you can visit too. Get haunted. Pick up something, bring it back home. Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-host, Amy.
Hello.
Check us out online, unscaledtravelshow.com. We're talking about, if you didn't know, now you know, there are castles here in the United States. Not in the typical sense of castles when you think castles. Like, we noted earlier, we've been to a lot of castles. We still haven't been to Germany. And they're like grand castles, and that's kind of like the inspiration for
Yeah.
Disney and, all these places. And then France has a lot of beautiful castles we haven't been to. We've been to Versailles, those kind of places, but we've been to, like, in Portugal, Obidos, and
The one in Sintra.
Sintra, the several in Sintra, and then, a few others like in Japan and things like that. And just all of them. I just have this love of castles. And we were talking about these grand estates that I guess technically we classify them as castles now, because most of them did eventually get the castle name put into what they were, their whole grand presentation. But not all American castles were built for grandeur. Some were built for weird. And this is kind of where we leave the Vanderbilt stuff behind and we get into these eccentric locations. And these, I think, are more fun and a little more scary than the rest of them.
Right. Like this first one, the Gillette Castle in Connecticut. It is now actually owned and operated by the Connecticut State Park. So it is very much open to visitors. It is a museum. But when you first showed me this picture, I was like, ooh, it's a little creepy looking. And you had the best way of phrasing it. It's medieval meets mountain lodge. And you said it's Dracula's Airbnb. And I love this because that's exactly what it looks like on the inside.
If Dracula had an Airbnb that he wanted to let you rent a night for, this would be it. It was built by stage actor William Gillette, who is most famous for his depiction of Sherlock Holmes on the stage. He's the one that invented the whole style of what we think of when we think of Sherlock Holmes. The curved pipe, the deerstalker cap, all of that. That was associated with William Gillette. William Gillette was a little bit of a weirdo.
You can see that when you start looking at the details of this house.
The strange details of Gillette Castle. 47 custom wooden doors, all with custom locks that have different locking mechanisms in them, requiring different keys and stuff like that. So even when they restored the property and started, going through it, it took them some time to unlock these doors because they were kind of a puzzle.
Which I think that was the intent. Like every room it's a puzzle to get into it. Because I think he really thought he was Sherlock Holmes. He was more than a method actor. He was like, I am Holmes. I am going to make everyone deduce and solve puzzles just to come into my home and to get into every single room.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there. Meth.
Method, but okay.
Oh, that's what you said. He had light switches with carved wood. He built this all between, I think, 1914 and 1919 at a cost over $1 million at that time. I'm like, William Gillette had $1 million in 1914. Wow. People really loved that show, I guess. The grand upper balcony ran the entire length of the downstairs main room. The weirdest part, though, they had secret doors and passageways and a secret room all over the property. The secret room is only accessible by a staircase revealed after pulling down a handle.
Oh.
The room is small and contains a fireplace. He also had, listen to this, a series of mirrors above the Great Hall that allowed him to view visitors from his bedroom.
He sounds crazy.
This design is thought to have helped Gillette spy on his guests and or make dramatic entrances. I'm going to just go with the first one here.
It's creepy. It
is a lot creepy and a lot crazy.
I find it creepy, yes.
Yeah. So, he invented the look of Sherlock Holmes and he invented the house that Sherlock Holmes, if he became Dracula later on in life, would absolutely feel at home in.
But he wasn't the only one that was like, I'm going to build an odd castle to be known. This next one is interesting. It's the Hammond Castle in Massachusetts. But what I find the most interesting about it is when John Hammond Jr. decided he wanted to build this, he knew he was never going to live in it. It was never intended to be a residence. It was always intended to be a museum because he said, he was a scientist, that his legacy in science wasn't going to last. So he wanted this castle to be his legacy.
Wow.
So it was always intended to be a museum. So it's a little bit to me like, is it a castle or is it not? Because nobody was ever going to live there.
So it says one theory is it was built to exclusively hold his medieval artifacts because he was a huge collector. So, I mean, I'm not the only one who gets weird about castles. I mean, not this level weird about castles. It also is wired with what they say was experimental technology, including devices for communicating with the dead.
Oh, I didn't read that part. Interesting.
I saw your face. It features a great hall with medieval organs, a working drawbridge, and a weather-controlled courtyard.
Yeah, that part is crazy to me that he wanted it to have, he said it on the website, historical European atmosphere inside the walls so that visitors would feel like they were actually in Europe.
Yeah.
Like, who thinks that? Like, I want the atmosphere. I want the weather to be like Europe here in the U.S.
He was already in the year 2000, man. That's how far ahead he was.
It's impressive.
At the time, Hammond held over 400 patents, which was second only to Thomas Edison in this time frame. I think about all these, we're looking at this was built between 1926 and 1929. I think Gillette Castle, I said between 1914 and 1919. And we imagine all these things happening in their own separate time period. But somewhere all around the United States, people were building these castles during the same time period.
Yeah. And you don't even think about that time period, people building castles in the U.S. But like you said, 5 of them already have been built at that time. And this one was actually part seance chamber.
Unscaled Travel Show. Be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-host and co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We're in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. And, we're talking about, if you didn't know, there are things you could classify as castles here in the United States. People have been building them for a while. And strangely enough, we're going to find out a little bit later on the show, they're still building them in different places or relatively,
Okay.
now. So
Teaser.
in this time period. And also coming up, a little bit of a gruesome one.
Ooh,
Ugh,
okay.
be prepared for that one. Now let's chat about the only castle on our list today that was actually built and housed royalty. And in it itself is a little bit of a sad story too, I will say. The Iolani Palace in Honolulu, Hawaii, is a palace that was built for the kings of Hawaii. It was restored and kind of completed and had different variations, but mainly built between 1879 and 1882. It's part European palace, part island opulence, but it did house and house royalty and deal with stately affairs and things like that. It's the only one on the list that it was actually built for that purpose.
Right. A king and his sister, who became queen after he passed, both lived in this house before.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they were overthrown and it became something else. But as you said, the only castles in the U.S. that actually house royalty, because we don't have royalty here. But Hawaii did before the U.S. Decided they wanted a part of that.
I don't know. I mean, you don't count the Kardashians as royalty here? That's American royalty. Oh, God, help us all. But yeah, I mean, the palace in Honolulu is, it's stunning. It really is a stunning place to look and visit, and you can visit it. It is a museum. You can go check it out there, and they do tours, which this is what I would do. I really love tours of castles and different things, even the museum tours, because they give you the stuff that they don't, normally give people.
Right.
Like you can't find a lot of the information on the website. You'll get the 5 W's on there, the who, what, where, why, wins,
Right.
but everything. But like the tours, that's where the meat of it is.
Yeah, and they have docent-led tours. So docents are kind of tour guides, but they're talking more about the history and those little-known things that you're not going to find other places. And you and I have come to love those types of tours because it is a little more informative in those like lesser-known historical facts about places. And they do have docent-led tours at this. It's not called a castle, it's called a palace. And I think it's the only one called a palace.
And I like that more. It's elegant. It's like the Palace of Versailles.
Yes.
It's just a little bit more classy. It's like you go to Target instead of Walmart kind of thing, But it did, some wonderful oddities to it or good footnote history is kind of like it had electricity before the White House in Washington, D.C. did.
Interesting.
It was used as a government building after the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy. And the restoration brought it back because, of course, when you're trying to, and this is where I might ruffle some feathers, but when you're trying to erase a culture or some peoples, you start with just kind of downplaying their culture and start downplaying their regalness and everything they had, especially if you're dealing with a monarchy. But the restoration of it brought it back to that royal era with the look and the feel of it. And now you can go check it out. And it is a, very, very bittersweet kind of story. And I don't know who's the bitter. I mean,
yeah, no, I agree with you.
It's a tough line to walk, but it is one of those, it is the only royal palace on U.S. soil.
In more recent years, they've done a lot to kind of bring back the original intent of the palace. And even the Royal Hawaiian Band, which used to be known as the King's Band, it's a group of musicians. They still perform and have free concerts on the palace grounds almost weekly for people to go, trying to bring back that original purpose and culture of this palace.
This next one, Bannerman Castle in New York. A lot of these in New York. It has no royal connection. It's a faux Scottish fortress. Okay, it was never meant to be an actual fortress. So from one real one to one real fake one. But Francis Bannerman was a military surplus dealer. He built it between 1901 and 1918. The only thing and the only reason that kind of caught my eye with this one is that they do guided boat tours because it is on an island situated on an island out in water and everything. But they also do like theatrical performances.
Oh, really?
There, and they show movies there, and they do these things.
Turned it into a tourist attraction.
Yeah,
like most of these have. Okay.
But you can, if you don't want to take the boat, you can always kayak to it.
Interesting.
But it is one of these, the Bannerman Castle is one of these places where you can go and, get a little bit of culture. Anyway.
But so nobody ever lived there? It was just wasn't it like a warehouse for?
Yeah, it was like a warehouse or something.
Ammunitions or something.
But it was never really meant to be.
So why did this guy build it? This now I have questions.
I don't know, man. You got money, and back then there was no TV.
He's like, so let's just build a castle that nobody's ever going to use.
Yeah.
We'll just store all our weapons there.
Why not? You got a lot of weapons.
Interesting. Okay.
Texas has one. Texas has a castle.
Does it?
Yeah. Near Bellevue. Belleville Castle. There's Newman's Castle. This is not a castle built for anything.
What? That sounds like a Texas castle.
Newman's Castle?
Newman's Castle.
Yeah. It is. But this one, I've driven by this one. It's actually a big, huge, beautiful place, but it's just for events. So a lot of people get married there. They have these events there. But it was built by a baker, and it features a drawbridge, has a moat chapel, and a working catapult.
So it's just an event venue?
Yeah.
That a baker built?
Yeah. I've written about it before.
Love it.
It's hilarious,
Love
man.
it. Okay.
But just in the hill country of Texas, you're driving along, you look up, there's a castle. Like, why not? You would think they would do like a replica of the Alamo or something.
Something.
That's
I guess you
sacrilegious?
could just go to the Alamo, though.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, weddings at the Alamo hit different, I guess.
I guess so.
Let's go travel show. We'll be right back.
Unskilled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. Jeremy Long here with my co-host, the co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We're coming to you from Sin City in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. Check us out online, unscaledtravelshow.com. And we got a bunch of new followers and everything on. We post our episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And, we have some fun on YouTube channel too. So thanks for all of our new subscribers and followers. And this is just a heads up. Things are about to take a dark little turn here. Before we bring it back to the light, things are about to take a dark turn, so just a heads up. And this is the part of the show that gets a little dark and a lot crazy.
It's a good way of putting it.
Okay. This one is not a castle per se, but it has been dubbed a castle, and it's fittingly, I would say, American, because it is a murder castle.
It's disturbing.
This is a disturbing story. The builder was Herman Webster Mudgett, or as history would know him, H.H. Holmes.
Which I was wondering why he is known by H.H. Holmes. And this is another person who I would say was obsessed with the English detective series of Sherlock Holmes. And he literally changed his name to be Holmes.
Yeah.
So what is it with these people being inspired by a detective and building these crazy castles?
I think it's something about the genius of it. And then like Holmes was known for deductive reasoning and like capturing these villains that were very smart about their crimes and stuff. And so, we talked about William Gillette and his weird little castle, but this one could be inspired by the same thing because this guy, he did his stuff out in the open. And it's almost like he wanted to be caught, but the genius is not the right word for it, but the stunning audacity of his castle and the, just how he went about doing everything, by a guy has been labeled America's first serial killer, where he built this 3-story building over a few years mainly between 1892 and 1894 when he got caught. And it served, the only purpose was to trap people and off them.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Reading about the actual castle itself, it says it was a labyrinth of rooms, but the downstairs was like shops. It was almost like a shopping center with apartments above it.
He wanted it to seem as normal as possible on the outside and a maze of horror on the inside. Some of the things in there. Okay. This is nuts. Hidden hallways, secret staircases, soundproof rooms, gas lines that connected to sealed guest rooms.
What?
Downstairs in the basement, a dissecting table, a crematorium, and a lime pit to dispose of his crimes. He originally posed it as a hotel during the 1893 Chicago World's Fair.
Wow.
Victims would often check in and never check out. And back then, it wasn't like, with the whole social media thing now and people, track your phone and everything. Mm-hmm. And there were vagabonds. People just traveled around freely. And so they would check in as Mrs. Smith and just no one would ever see them again.
Gosh. Yeah, I read that they aren't able to confirm this because the building was demolished several years later, but that some of the rooms allegedly had trap doors with chutes that would send people directly to the basement where he did his nefarious activities.
Yeah.
How terrifying is that? I'm glad they demolished this one, because I would be like, I'm sure it would be one of the most haunted places in the world. And probably the sad little post office that sits on this property now is still haunted. But who would want to stay there?
Yeah. And, I think almost more than that, because there are different houses in the U.S. and we visited some, like the Lizzie Borden house, that still serve people, and they still have people that stay the night there and do things. And people do have this attraction to what we call dark tourism or paranormal and morbid tourism, things like that. But something like this goes to a different level. I believe it goes to the fact that, some people would try to make it out to be this, mausoleum of, destruction and evilness or whatever, or just kind of a, place where they would want to gather. And people back then, even then, it was shocking. No one had ever heard of someone doing this thing. And it sat right in the middle of one of the most prestigious areas of Chicago at the time.
Wow.
And they had just had this World's Fair, so all eyes were on them while this World's Fair was going on, which the World's Fair wasn't just like a weekend that you went to Chicago. It was, a very, very long fair. And the entire time this is going on. And, I won't go into the details of how he got caught and whatever. He did confess to 27 murders, but that was all they could prove and tie him to directly to. Some other estimates range into the hundreds through a short amount of time. This guy was a sicko.
Wow. And he built a house purely to murder people. It's weirdly fascinating.
It is weirdly fascinating. But it's also there's, even when the ties now currently, they have more ties. Like if you watch some of the, there's countless documentaries and things like that now, but they have ties to where they think that this guy might have been the actual Jack the Ripper.
Really?
Because supposedly, and all these connections and everything, during the same time he's doing this, he goes off to London for a time period. Some of this stops and it picks up during the Jack the Ripper times in London. So they're saying there's a strong case that he may have very well been Jack the Ripper. And his fascination with Sherlock Holmes and I'm not going to get into all of that with what Jack the Ripper did, but with the medical stuff that was done.
Wow.
It would make sense.
It would. It would totally make sense. This is the only one that I think the building is not still standing, but like I said, I'm a little bit glad. I did read that after he was in prison, the building was caught on, probably arson. They said 2 men were out there and the building ended up engulfed in flames and they had to demolish it. But I think a building with that much dark history and energy, what else would you do with it? I would burn it to the ground.
Yeah. I guess now you could go to the post office that just sits there. There is this documentary I watched not long ago with our daughter because, of course, I'm a great parent of the year. But they have done, I think the when they look into the sonar of the grounds and everything in the post office and see different things that were left, the foundation stuff in the basement, the stuff that was left behind. It's like you said, it's fascinating. It's gruesome, and that's why I try to warn everyone. But it is kind of fascinating, at the same time.
You worded it interestingly the other day, but you said, because this was going on during the World's Fair, and you're like, well, people are in Chicago, and it's like, oh, electricity and Ferris wheels, and this guy has a serial killer maze. Yeah. Right there, and nobody knows this is going on. It's oddly fascinating. That this was all happening right there, and people have dubbed this house a castle. And was it even really a house? I think it was more of a building.
Yeah, it was more just a 3-story building, but when you have a dark purpose like that, there's nothing else you could do but just kind of rid yourself of it. And it's a dark chapter in Chicago's history, American history. But it is a thing. It is fascinating. If you're of the Constitution to do some research, do some research. But all right, now you can bring the kids back to Unskilled Travel.
Unskilled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Jeremy Long here with my co-explorer, Amy.
Hello.
We're in Las Vegas. There are some castles here, or at least one downtown on the Strip. You can stay at it. I think it's $35 a night. We're in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. We're talking about castles, believe it or not, that are in the U.S. that you can visit. Well, except one. It's torn down. It was a murder house. So I promise you I would bring it back. We would come back to the light because we had to talk about something pretty dark. But now we'll come back to the Castello de Amorosa in California that is just a winery. But it's a beautiful winery.
It's a gorgeous winery.
I should say it's not just a winery, but it is a gorgeous winery. And it's nice, and you can go there. And as far as we know, there's no weird things happening in the basement there.
No trapdoors.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know.
And that's good because we've toured the Grand Estates. We've talked about the heartbreak castles, the mad inventor castles, the people that were just kind of weird, Sherlock Holmes fascinations and all of that. But
the legacy castles we want our name to live on. And
yeah.
A gorgeous property.
But, the weird thing is I guess not weird. I guess weird is the wrong word. But the kind of odd thing is that we are still building these things today, especially here in the United States. And I mentioned the one briefly that you can find in the hills of Texas, and it's just meant to be an event place, but it is very much patterned after a medieval castle with turrets. And if you didn't know any better, and if someone slapped some fake history on it, you could be like, oh, really? We had castles here. You remember the castle at Schlitterbahn Waterpark?
Yes.
In New Braunfels, Texas. That was the sign that summer was here because we would take an annual trip to Schlitterbahn. If you don't know what Schlitterbahn is, it is a water park.
It is a giant water park
in New Braunfels, Texas, and this thing comes up out through through the trees on the highway to Schlitterbahn, and all of a sudden you're just like, yes, summertime. Water, fun, all of that stuff.
Right.
We just have this love of castles.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because even when you first said, let's talk about castles, the first thing I thought of is the castle, and I say air quotes, castle at Death Valley called Scotty's Castle, which it's interesting that it's named that because it is not actually a castle. It's just a 2-story ranch style villa in the desert. It is really pretty. And it is part of Death Valley National Park now. Unfortunately, it's closed because they had really bad flooding about a decade ago, but they are starting to allow some tours there. And I've always heard from people who have been there, that's a really interesting place because it also has some weird little quirks to it.
Yeah.
And now seeing that they're finally starting to allow a few tours here and there, I want to go check it out. But it's one of these places that's dubbed a castle, even though it's really not.
Yeah, and I mentioned, even on the Strip, you can stay at Excalibur Hotel, which is all castle themed. In fact, one of our favorite shows in the city, they have it I don't know, what do you call it?
It's like medieval times.
Medieval times
Tournament
dinner.
of Kings, yeah.
There you go. Tournament of Kings dinner show. They ride horses out there, and they have this whole night thing, and they serve you dinner while you watch it.
You
and
eat with your hands.
It's interactive. You get to scream and yell for the good guys and holler things at the bad guys, but it's all night themed. And it's one of the last true themed
Hotels.
And
Yeah.
resorts here in Las Vegas. That era is kind of over, but it's one of the most beloved ones.
Yeah.
And, like, kids love it. It's very family friendly, except for maybe the Thunder from Down Under. I mean, that's a different
That's
type
a different show.
That's a totally different show. Bought those tickets once for our kids. Oops, made a mistake. But they serve a different purpose while still being,
I remember,
like,
though,
tied into this.
the first time I went to a Medieval Times was in Texas, and I had no idea what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a trip with a bunch of kids from school. I was in high school at the time. And you do pull up into this parking lot and you see this giant building that looks like a medieval castle. And you're like, I had never seen anything like that. And I think that is why, as Americans, we are fascinated, because this is not common. You're not just driving down the highway in the US and like, oh, a sign for a castle here, a sign for a castle there. But when you and I were in Portugal and we made the drive from Lisbon up to Porto, it felt like every couple of miles there was a sign to turn off for another castle. And we're like, what is that like, to just grow up with all this amazing history and architecture around you? And here we're like, oh, it's 200 years old. That's really, really old.
Or if you grow up in East Texas like we did, and then that's a totally different thing. That's you ask questions about growing up there. Yeah. Ask a few more. We need them. You mentioned the medieval times, but even in places like Arrington, Tennessee, there's the Castle Gwyn, which is a privately owned place, but it is used as the backdrop for the Tennessee Renaissance Festival.
Oh.
So you have full medieval cosplay, and then right behind it is like an actual castle that you get to, talk about real immersion, in places like that. But
did you ever go to the Texas Renaissance Festival?
No.
I did once.
You
One
did?
time. Yeah, but it's like in the middle of a forest. So there's not like really buildings out there.
Yeah, that's what worried me. I knew it was kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, but it did worry me. I drove by the grounds once. By that time, they already had signs set up.
We drove by the grounds when we went to a wedding out there.
That is true. That was me.
Yes.
Yeah. Our
Yes.
friend had a wedding out there. And
Not on the
not on the
Renaissance Festival grounds.
not far off, though. I wouldn't be shocked if we went back and did that. But yeah, I mentioned the Castello in California, but the guy who built it, Dario, and I'm going to butcher his last name, Satui, maybe. He's the 4th generation winemaker. It was built between 1994 and 2007. So yes, pretty recent, but it was painstakingly authentically built to mimic a 13th century Tuscan fortress.
Oh, okay.
So out there in Napa Valley, where, one of the most popular locations in California, people are doing their wedding, things. I don't know. What do they call them?
A wedding?
I was thinking of the parties before the weddings.
Like showers? And
There
things?
you go. That kind of stuff. Girls' weekends, all that kind of stuff.
I love you.
And amongst there are the things that you could go, like you can go to this Tuscan fortress that's gorgeous. Like if you go online and look at their pictures and look how much work not only went into the winery part, but the rooms they look, hand painted, obviously
Right.
they got to be. And it just kind of, I guess, brings you back to that time.
And it is just a winery, but they do have properties that they're affiliated with that you can book accommodations at and stay, and they do tours of the winery. So it is kind of it's not just a go and wine tasting experience. It's a full on vacation, really, if you want to go there. And like you said, it is beautiful. Looking at the pictures, I would not think that this was only 20 years old.
And keeping with that, on this property, they, of course, have all the rooms, the fermentation rooms. They have a knight's chamber, a tasting room, all of that good stuff, right? What you would expect. They have an armory that does have real armor in it from the medieval times. They also have a torture chamber.
Okay.
Absolutely true. Virtually every castle, this is from their website, virtually all castles in Europe had prisons and torture chambers. So take the tour and you'll see the original Iron Maiden, or the whatever they called it back then, that they would torture people by putting them inside.
I thought this was lighter than the previous.
I thought it was too. I thought it was too. And then I started looking at their website going, I'm just going to sneak this in at the end. But yeah, they got a wine library. They have Dario's, tasting rooms and all of that stuff. And then a torture chamber for those that are really excited about getting married.
Interesting.
Or just want a precursor to it. They just wanted to, you probably ask your parents all the time, like, what is it like being married 30 years?
You're awful.
Sorry.
You're awful. Don't sour people on marriage.
No, it's a good question. Have you ever been wrecked? Come to the winery in California, get wrecked, then get married. It's the same thing. Thanks for joining us. U.S. castles in America. I hope I didn't turn you off to any of them. Except for the one in Chicago. Don't go to that one. It's Unskilled Travel Show. We will see you guys next time.